This famous boxer's spending habits spiraled out of control, and they ended up owing £1.3 million in taxes in 2009. Have you ever wondered how someone with millions of dollars could possibly go bankrupt out of nowhere? Chris Eubank was one of the most well-known English boxers throughout the 90s, earning millions of dollars throughout his career. Over the course of his professional boxing career, Eubank had a total of 52 fights, of which he won 45, and of those 45 wins, 23 of them were by knockout. In other words, he was a very good fighter, which made him a very popular boxer around the world. He is reported as earning more than £10 million as a professional boxer, so the big question here is, where did it all go? As if the millions that Chris was making from his boxing weren't enough, he didn't stop there. Eubank was also known for featuring in various TV ads for big companies like Nescafe, McDonald's and Versace. The man was clearly working hard to make sure that he still had money coming in, which helped him to raise his net worth upward of £10 million. However, this couldn't last forever. Little did Chris Eubank Sr. know he was about to be hit with one of the biggest financial hardships of his life, and in the end, he would end up bankrupt. The only question is, what happened? Where did all the money go? Well, the answer is really simple, and it's honestly one of the most common reasons that younger or new millionaires end up losing all their money before they even get the chance to see it grow. Chris Eubank Sr. spent his fortune irresponsibly. By the time it was too late, he was vastly in debt, and then eventually declared that he was bankrupt. If you followed Eubank's boxing career throughout the 90s, it'll be no surprise to hear that he was a big spender. I mean, he was given the title of Britain's best dressed man in both 1991 and 1993, and clothes like that don't come cheap. His outfit was so iconic that it often included Eubank wearing a monocle, bowler hat, and even walking around with a cane that had a silver tip on it. Eubank was famous for his style, and was even featured on the front of Esquire because of it. On top of that, the professional boxer went down the same route as many celebrities and millionaires before him, and he spent upwards of $1 million on his collection of eccentric vehicles, which includes a fully customized Harley-Davidson motorcycle. He was also, at one point, the only person in Britain to own a Hummer, but the most interesting vehicle that Eubank purchased was his massive American Peterbilt 379 truck cab. That's right, Chris Eubank Sr. spent an undisclosed amount of money to purchase the cab of an 18-wheeler truck that he quickly became known for driving around in, despite the fact that he couldn't pass the licensing exam at the time. Though it's an interesting purchase, that's one thing that to many people would look like a clear waste of money. Now, the money that Eubank spent wasn't all used on personal things, and though it still wasn't exactly responsible spending, he did use more than £1 million of his own money to help build housing for the homeless. It was 1994 when he spent £1.25 million to purchase a piece of prime real estate from the city and began renovating the interior of the building into 69 apartments for the homeless. While this was an amazing gesture, because Eubank hadn't thought ahead, it was ultimately one of the decisions that saw him lose almost all of his money. Beyond that, the building that he purchased and renovated was only under his possession for about 6 years before it was sold in 2000, and once again redeveloped. As for the rest of his millions, rather than investing them or holding on to them for a rainy day, Eubank spent them to maintain his luxurious lifestyle. This meant spending thousands of dollars or more on vacations for him and his family, spending money on the most expensive clothing for him and his family, and purchasing an expensive home. Little did Chris know, though, as he was spending his money, he wasn't earning enough to break even and maintain that lifestyle, and in the early 2000s, the taxman came calling. Between the years of 2006 and 2009, Chris Eubank Sr. became aware that his financial situation was heading in a downward trajectory, and fast. But sadly, it was a little too late. It turned out that at that point the former boxer owed nearly £1.3 million in back taxes, which led to a rather low point in the man's life. He also had debts from unpaid tickets, along with debt left behind from all his spendings on vacations and other luxuries. Once he learned about his debt, Eubank spoke with his accountants to see if there was a way to salvage his situation, and as it would happen, Chris ended up filing for bankruptcy in 2009. In a 2016 interview that the former boxer did with The Telegraph, Chris went on to blame a big part of his going bankrupt on the fact that he was delegating his finances to others, meaning that he feels that he would have been more responsible if he had been more in charge and aware of his financial situation. This, to an extent, could be true, but in reality, unless you are well educated in finances, you should really have someone you trust to talk through your financial moves with you, just so that you can get a second opinion on your spending, and maybe someone to tell you, hey, you shouldn't be spending that much right now. Here's a better idea of what you should be doing to maintain your current financial status. If there's a silver lining to be taken from losing all of his money, it's that Chris and his family all learned a valuable lesson about being responsible with their money. This would come in handy for Chris's son, Chris Jr., who, like his father, is now earning millions as a professional boxer. Chris Jr. is quoted as saying, "Dad's problems shaped me, 100%. You have to learn from other people's mistakes, especially those close to you." This means that he saw all of his father's poor spending habits and his lack of financial responsibility. Though Chris Eubank Sr.'s current net worth is nowhere near what it was during his peak, despite the fact that he declared bankruptcy 13 years ago, the former professional boxer has managed to bring his net worth back up to around $500,000. According to his son, he is still living a wonderful life, but is hopefully now being a bit more responsible with his funds. If there's one thing to take away from Eubank's story, it's that you should always be aware of how much you are spending compared to how much income you are making. That's all for today's video, and remember, if you're interested in more videos concerning the common money mistakes made by celebrities, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in our next video.